morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to the second edition of the FITC Risk Management Roundtable. We're so excited to have you all here today. Today, we're gathering to engage in critical conversations on risk management in Nigeria's financial services sector, especially considering the incidences of fraud and forgery in the fiscal year. And over the course of today's event, we'll hear from regulators, industry leaders, and subject matter experts on emerging threats, innovative solutions, and strategies for organizational resilience. So before we begin officially, we'd like to take the national anthem. Before we take the national anthem, we'd like to acknowledge our partners for today's program. We have the Chartered Risk of Management Institute, as well as the Risk Manager Society of Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us here. Let's take the national anthem now.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians home and proud to serve our sovereign fatherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hang on to our children a banner without stain. Oh God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Good morning again, everyone. Thank you for joining the FITC Risk Management Roundtable. We are extremely excited to have you all. My name is Doyum, and I will be standing in together with my colleague Ijiro to compare the Risk Management Roundtable today. I hope everyone can hear me. Thank you. Okay. Tech, please confirm if we have, thank you very much for the confirmation. So it would be very nice to know where you're all joining from. Please drop in the chat box where you're joining from. It's a good opportunity to network with other stakeholders in the industry, and also please drop where you're joining from. Let us know where you're joining from. Let us know what you do in the chat. I see Lagos. That's good to know. Thank you, everyone, for engaging. It's a good opportunity for us to network with each other, even as we're here today. So next on our agenda will be the welcome address by the MD CEO of FITC, the Chief Igniter herself, Dr. Chizo Malize. Tech, please confirm to me that we have the MD on the call. Okay, I've just been informed that the MD will be represented by our very own Dr. Esther Sam Amoye. Tech, please unmute Dr. Esther. She will be taking the welcome address on behalf of the MD CEO of FITC this morning. It's good to see your beautiful face, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dion, and congratulations on this very august and awesome roundtable. It's my pleasure to deliver the Chief Igniter's welcome address, who is unavoidably absent at this time due to pressing engagements. But I'm sure before the end of the program, she may be able to still make an appearance. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. I'll be delivering the keynote and opening address of the second edition of FITC Risk Management Roundtable 2025. Distinguished regulators, esteemed CEOs, senior executives, partners in Nigeria's financial system, ladies and gentlemen. I am delivering this speech on behalf of Dr. Chizo Malize, and I take it as follows. Good morning. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the second edition of the FITC Risk Management Roundtable 2025, a platform that continues to bring together the nation's most influential voices in risk management, governance, cybersecurity, financial crime, and regulatory strategy. Each edition strengthens our collective resolve to safeguard the integrity, trust, and resilience of Nigeria's financial ecosystem. Last year, our deliberations centered on financial system stability, leveraging AI for financial fraud detection and regulation. We examined how artificial intelligence can transform fraud detection, supervisory intelligence, and compliance oversight. 1 year later, the realities confronting us have intensified. Fraud, globally and locally, is evolving at a pace that challenges even our most sophisticated controls. The attacks are fewer but smarter, not louder but deeper, not broad-based but highly targeted. That is why our theme for this year is both timely and mission critical. Repositioning anti-fraud strategy, fortifying Nigeria's financial system against evolving fraud patterns. Now, the reality is that fraud is outpacing controls. At FITC, our vantage point provides. Sorry, I hope my network is not glitchy. I hope you can still hear me.
Yes, we can, Dr. Esther.
Okay, there was a bit of a glitch. All right, so I'm talking about the realities now and how that fraud is outpacing controls. At FITC, our vantage point provides an unparalleled understanding of fraud trends across the industry. FITC receives fraud data from across Nigeria and publishes the quarterly Fraud and Forgeries report, freely accessible to the public. This industry-wide visibility reveals clear patterns. 1, fraud is becoming purposefully low volume but extremely high value, driven by more organized, digitally sophisticated schemes. 2, while digital and mobile channels remain vulnerable, we continue to see internal risks with several bank staff under investigations. 3, customers face rising exposure to impersonation, social engineering, forged check schemes, and fraudulent digital authorizations. And also, institutions must manage the tension between accelerating digital innovation and maintaining robust controls at all levels. This roundtable challenges us to confront that question with clarity and collaboration. Our 2025 imperative is a repositioned, future-proof anti-fraud strategy. A transformed anti-fraud strategy for today's environment must be built around 5 pillars. 1, intelligence-led, not volume-led oversight. With high-value attacks, increasing institutions must transition from simple rule-based detection to behavior-led analysis, device intelligence, adaptive scoring models, and real-time anomaly mapping. 2, integration of controls across digital and physical channels. Fraud rarely occurs in silos. Our defense must not operate in silos either. 3, strengthening operational resilience at all levels. Rising losses linked to daily operations indicate the need for tighter operational governance and proactive red flag monitoring. 4, customer-centric fraud prevention. Customers remain the most vulnerable link. We must educate, warn, empower them before fraud happens, not after. And finally, the 5th one, collaboration across all players in the ecosystem. Fraudsters collaborate seamlessly across networks. Banks, fintechs, telcos, regulators, and supervisors must collaborate in order to inform, to strengthen, and to protect. What is FITC's role here? A national intelligence enabler. FITC over the years remains committed to enhancing transparency through quarterly fraud reporting, supporting regulatory policy development, enabling institutions to benchmark risk exposure, strengthening the industry's collective resilience through research, capacity building, and shared intelligence. The Risk Management Roundtable is a continuation of that mandate to convene, to inform, to strengthen, and to protect. In closing, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria's financial system stands at a defining moment. Fraud is evolving. Technology is accelerating. Criminal networks are expanding. Customer expectations are rising, and regulatory demands are intensifying. Our response must be faster, smarter, and more coordinated than ever before. Today is therefore not just a conversation, it is a commitment to protect our institutions, our customers, and the financial system we all serve. I thank you all for your presence, your partnership, and your dedication to strengthening Nigeria's financial future. On behalf of Dr. Chizo Malize, welcome once again to the FITC Risk Management Roundtable 2025. Thank you. Delivered on behalf of Dr. Chizo Malize, MCIOD, MD CEO, FITC. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Virtual round of applause, please. That was a very rousing welcome address by the MD CEO of FITC, Dr. Chizo Malize, ably represented by Dr. Esther Amoye, the Head Learning and Development at FITC. If you are in this program and your colleagues are not here, you are very wrong. So now is the time to drop that WhatsApp message. Now is the time to drop that Teams message to ask your team members and your colleagues in the risk management, fraud, cybersecurity space to join this meeting now. There's so much knowledge to be shared. There's so much insights to be gotten that will help your work, your day-to-day activities. So now is the time to get them to join us. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, I'd like to, we have a keynote address by the MD CEO of NDIC in the person of Mr. Thompson Oludari Sunday, and he is ably represented by Mrs. Amal Aruna. She is the Director, Risk Management of NDIC, and she will be sharing with us critical insights today. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Aruna.
Good morning.
I don't know if you promoted Amal Haruna Yes, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you, ma'am. You have the floor.
I'm so glad to be here, and it is a privilege for me to be delivering this keynote address on behalf of my MD, CEO of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation, Mr. Thompson Oludare Sunday. My video is not on. And I'm surprised. Because I'd like everyone to see me.
Yes, ma'am. Confirm that you put it on. Tech, is there anything you can
It's
do about it?
on. It's on.
Okay, I can see a black screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The shutter for your camera is closed. Can you confirm the shutter for the camera of your laptop is not closed?
No, it's not closed.
Okay. Yes, we can see you now.
You can see me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Over to you, ma.
Okay, so the chairman of the board of directors of FITC, Mr. Philip Ikeazo, the managing director of FITC, Dr. Chizo Malize, my esteemed colleagues from the Regulatory and Supervisory Committee, distinguished directors, CEOs, senior executives of financial institutions, thought leaders, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. This is the message from Mr. Thompson Oludare Sunday. It's an honor to be invited by the FITC to deliver this keynote address at the 2025 Annual Fraud Risk Management Roundtable. The timing could not be more appropriate as the global financial landscape is experiencing an unprecedented surge in sophistication and scale of economic crimes. The theme of this roundtable, Repositioning Anti-Fraud Strategy, Fortifying Nigeria's Financial System Against Evolving Threat Dynamics, is not merely academic, it's an urgent call to action that touches the very heart of the NDIC's existence and mandate. The core mandate of the NDIC is the protection of depositors and the promotion of a safe, sound, and stable financial system. How does this connect directly with fraud? Fraud is a direct precursor to financial instability. In our tripartite mandate, we operate as deposit insurer. We guarantee deposits up to a specific limit when an insured financial institution fails. Supervisor, we collaborate with the CBN to examine and monitor banks to ensure their operational safety and soundness. Resolution authority, we manage the orderly failure and liquidation of distressed insured institutions. When a bank suffers catastrophic losses due to fraud, be it complex cyber attacks or prolonged insider abuse, its capital is eroded, its solvency is compromised, and the risk of failure becomes imminent. In effect, every naira lost to fraud is a step closer to the activation of the NDIC deposit guarantee mechanism. Therefore, from the NDIC's perspective, an effective anti-fraud strategy is not just best practice for banks, it's a mandatory pillar of solvency and public trust. By fortifying our financial institutions against evolving threat dynamics, we are simultaneously preserving the deposit insurance fund and protecting the stability of the entire system. The threat landscape is changing rapidly. The challenges we face today are no longer limited to simple manual manipulations. They include 1, digital and cyber fraud. As financial services become increasingly digital, fraud has become borderless, instantaneous, and highly technical. We are seeing sophisticated phishing, ransomware attacks, and deepfake technology being weaponized against both institutions and customers. 2, insider-induced risk. Perhaps the most damaging form of risk is that perpetrated by internal actors who misuse privileged access. The NDIC experience in bank resolution consistently shows that internal collusion and governance failure significantly amplify the damage caused by fraud. This requires enhanced internal controls and rigorous staff integrity checks. To counter this, the NDIC, in collaboration with the CBN, continues to sharpen its supervisory toolkit. We are actively encouraging and, when necessary, enforcing the deployment of supervisory technology and regulatory technology. These technologies allow for predictive analytics and real-time monitoring of transactions and operational risks, moving from reactive policing to proactive prevention. Repositioning our anti-fraud strategy demands more than individual institutional defense. It requires a collective ecosystem-wide commitment. Collaboration among regulators, information sharing between the NDIC, the CBN, FSRCC members, and anti-graft agencies must be seamless. We must consolidate data on emerging vulnerabilities to build a comprehensive risk profile for the sector. Banks and financial institutions must treat anti-fraud investment not as a cost center, but as a core capital preservation strategy. This means continuous training, technology upgrades, and embedding a pervasive culture of compliance and ethical conduct. Fraud often targets the weakest link, the customer. Robust financial literacy and public awareness campaign are essential tools in our anti-fraud arsenal, helping to shield depositors and prevent successful attacks. Ladies and gentlemen, the stability of Nigeria's financial system rests on two foundational elements: sound institutional health and unwavering public confidence. Fraud attacks both of these foundations. The work you are undertaking today is vital. By sharing knowledge, dissecting the latest threat vectors, and committing to innovative collaborative solutions, you are strengthening the defenses of every single insured financial institution. You are, in effect, reinforcing the NDIC's ability to execute its core mandate. Let us commit to a strategy that is forward-looking, technologically enabled, and fundamentally collaborative, ensuring that the Nigerian financial system remains robust, trustworthy, and impervious to evolving threat dynamics. I wish you a highly successful and engagement roundtable. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Very insightful and instructional strategies being implemented by the NDIC to control and also help the industry. Well done, ma, and well done to the organization. So we're moving on to accept goodwill messages from our strategic partners and industry associations. I'm privileged to call at this moment Dr. Abbas G. Idris from the Risk Management Society of Nigeria. You have the floor, sir, to give us the goodwill message.
Oh, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Abbas Idris. I'm the president and chairman of the governing board for Risk Managers Society of Nigeria. First and foremost, I would like to appreciate this partnership and to also thank FITC Risk Management for identifying with us. And I believe it is going to be, the partnership is going to be fruitful. On behalf of the leadership and members of the Risk Managers Society of Nigeria, I commend the organizations for this laudable initiative. As partners in advancing risk management in Nigeria, which our dear society has been doing for the past 4 decades, we look forward to more avenues for collaboration aimed at achieving the common goal of promoting risk management culture and awareness education, and on time, ultimately make risk management a culture integrated into every facet of our national life. We so much believe that this is lacking in all the decision making, and a lot of things, policies, government policies are really suffering because there are no risk management being taken. And so as a result of that, we are always getting backward, especially if you look at our own budgeting system and all those not abandoned projects because there are no risk assessment, and also the transfer of risk is becoming a new thing in the society, which is supposed to be the ultimate goal for even business organizations, at least having identified certain risk that you can filter, retain some, and transfer some to insurers, and this will help the economy to also grow. So I believe that with this partnership, a lot of things will come up so that we'll be able to really sort things out in the country. Having said that, I would like to appreciate the partnership, like I said earlier, and we are willing at any time, any point in time, to really join hands with FITC and make things greater for this nation. Thank you, and I wish everyone here a fruitful deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for that speech, Dr. Abbas Idris. I'd like to call the representative from Chartered Risk Management Institute of Nigeria to come up and give us a goodwill message. Okay, so while we wait for CRMI, I'd like to call on the representative of the Economic Financial Commission, Mr. Adebayo Adeni, ACE1 Adebayo Adeni. He's the AG Zonal Director, Lagos Zonal Directorate 1 for Lagos, and is representing the chairman of the EFCC. Sir, you have the floor to give the goodwill message.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Over to you.
Yes. Thank you very much. I don't know why I cannot unmute my video. I've been trying to, but I'm finding it difficult. So probably maybe you would, it's telling me that it's unable to detect my camera. So I hope everybody will pardon me for that. My name is Adebayo Adeni, Acting Zonal Director of EFCC Lagos Zonal Directorate 1. I'm representing the Executive Chairman of EFCC, Mr. Ola Olukoyede. I'm here today to give his keynote speech. And I'm also very delighted to be here and at least to be part of this great occasion that is happening today. And I want to acknowledge everybody on board. I couldn't start with you people from the beginning because I thought the program was actually happening live. So I was at your office. So I had to rush back to the office to, give this keynote speech. So good morning again, everybody. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you, sir. You can go ahead.
So let me go ahead. I am extremely delighted to be with you this morning and feel honored by the privilege to give a keynote speech to this distinguished gathering of major players in the Nigerian financial services sector. This event will the theme Repositioning Anti-Fraud Strategy, Fortifying Nigeria's Financial System Against Evolving Threat Dynamics. holds great significance as it symbolizes the industry's resolve to bolster the resilience by seeking solutions to mitigate evolving fraud threats in the financial ecosystem. The fraud risk exposure of the financial services sector is one that should concern not only industry's practitioners, but also every player in the Nigerian economy. This is for the simple reason that the financial services sector is a vital artery of the nation's economy. A financial services sector that lacks the requisite firewall against fraud unwittingly leaves the entire economy exposed to their consequences for the economic well-being of citizens. Sincerely, many of us are not strangers to the reverberating effects of the shocks of the banking sector, headwinds of the mid-late 2000s, precipitated by brazen corporate governance failure and other absurdities. The arrest and trial of some chief executive of banks was the high point, and two of these bank chiefs are still serving jail terms for treating depositors' funds as bazaars. We may have put those years of infamy behind us. In the last 2 decades, some remarkable progress has been made in terms of professionalism and the capacity of the financial service sector to support the economy. The digital transformation in the sector has improved efficiency and integrated Nigeria fully into the global financial services system. The emergence of fintech and agency banking has deepened financial inclusion. But that appears to be the end of the good news. As the head of a major law enforcement agency whose activities likely covers the financial sector, developments in the sector are concerning, to say the least. While the advances in digitalization and technology have been a blessing to the financial services sector, they have also exposed the sector to various fraud threats. The number of fraud cases emanating from the banking sector and their sophistication is troubling. Threats from hackers are multidimensional, with identity theft and breaches of bank cyber security system is a frequent occurrence. A few months ago, the Kaduna Directorate of the Commission investigated a case in which a group of young people exploited the system glitch in the bank's agency banking platform to transfer over 1 billion to various banks and fintech platforms. About 6 banks have had their system hacked, but we are careful not to reveal the identities of the banks to avoid sending depositors into panic withdrawal mode. As I speak to you, the Commission has been able to save 9 billion for one of the banks and over 6 billion for another. On the aggregate, the Commission's intervention saved over 20 billion for banks, and this is in respect of only reported cases. The emergence of virtual assets have also compounded the fraud outlook in the financial system. While not an entirely illegal investment outlet, the anonymity of crypto transactions has opened a veritable window for the laundering of proceeds of fraud from the financial sector. They increasingly find evidence of the dispersal of fraud process from the banks through cryptocurrency wallets, where it is extremely difficult to trace the digital footprint of the perpetrators. This dimension lent credence to the importance of finding fraud-proof digital solutions to the evolving threats in the financial ecosystem. Artificial intelligence has grown in sophistication and applicability in this regard. I am aware that Nigerian banks and other financial service providers are embracing this tool, especially in the area of transaction authentication. Currently, other tools can bolster the resilience of the Nigerian financial services sector against fraud risk in the form of algorithms that can monitor customers' behavior pattern as well as identity potential threats based on analysis of such patterns. These tools also have capability to analyze transaction data real-time, spot and stop suspicious activity, including money laundering. Full deployment of this tool will go a long way in enhancing efficiency in fraud detection, reduce costs, engender customers' trust, and mitigate losses to fraud that runs into hundreds of millions of dollars annually. Optimization of this tool will require investment in human capital improvement to ensure the availability of a pool of professionals with the right skill sets to develop, implement, and manage AI-driven solutions, requisite IT infrastructure, as well as more forward-looking regulatory architecture to deal with ethical concern, prevent abuse, and other uncertainties. While investment in cryptocurrency is critical, it is by no means a silver bullet to the fraud threat in the financial sector. Drawing from the experience of the Commission in investigating fraud cases in the financial services sector, most cases of fraud, especially in banks, comes down to insider collusion, where those directly charged with the sensitive information compromise or trade such. To check the connivance of bank officials in fraud, banks must revisit their internal control structure to streamline the number of staff with access to critical network data. It is also imperative for the banks and other financial institutions to pay closer attention to their recruitment procedures, as well as the welfare of all cadres of bank workers. The neglect of some level of employees categorized as contract staff invariably increases the vulnerability of such institutions to cyber-enabled fraud. In the same vein, we can overemphasize the value of corporate governance and adherence to regulatory obligations as building blocks for accountable and fraud-free operation in the financial sector. Exposure of banks, for instance, to non-performing loans by their debtors is a major cause of stress in the sector, with a few banks requiring forbearance to keep their heads above water. This unwieldy practice is one that can be addressed by AI tools. The fraud outlook in our financial institution will improve with conscious adherence to due process and regulation, including reporting obligations under the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. The obligation to report suspicious transactions is statutory and must not be observed in breach. I am still shocked by a sum of $7 million found its way into a vault of a commercial bank with no record of transaction or the depositors, even after the commission traced the money and a notice was published for the owner to show cause. No one has come forward. This underscores the deeper issues bedwelling some of our financial institutions, challenges that the AI alone may not be able to resolve. Apart from embracing AI, the way forward for the Nigerian financial sector is to strengthen corporate governance and compliance to regulation. Once this is done, I am confident that we can overcome most of the institutional challenges that make the sector vulnerable to fraud. On this note, I thank you all for listening and wish you a fruitful deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see virtual applauses. I hope we're listening. Thank you very much for the speech, the keynote speech on behalf of the chairman of the EFCC. It's very noteworthy that all agencies are putting hands, working in real time to make sure fraud and forgery is hopefully totally eliminated from our industry. Thank you very much, sir. So we've gotten to a very nice resting point in today's program, where we go into the plenary session. And the plenary session will basically speak to the theme of this program, which is repositioning anti-fraud strategy, fortifying Nigeria's financial system against evolving fraud dynamics. But before we go into this,
we have the keynote from CRMI.
Yes, ma'am. I was just about to introduce you. So before we go into the plenary session, I would be calling the representative of the president of CRMI, Mrs. Eneni Oduwole. Please, Ma, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity. Good morning, everyone. We have a keynote address from the president of our council of the Chartered Risk Management Institute. To make good use of our time, we recognize all protocols already established and uphold them. On behalf of my president, Mr. Kevin Ugoke, we welcome everyone. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and leaders in the fight against financial crime. He extends his apologies for not being here himself, but he will join us in the course of time. It is both a privilege and profound responsibility for us to have been considered as part of this war against fraud. And the theme, as the theme rightly says, that there's a need for us to reposition anti-fraud strategy to fortify Nigeria's financial system against evolving threat dynamics. For us at CRMI, this is not merely a topic for discussion, it's a call for urgent collective action. As the foremost, the only government approved and chartered risk management professional body in the country, we consider that this is a very critical issue for us to not just discuss, but to put active engagement, put our collaborative efforts together. So we gather at this inflection point because Nigeria's financial sector, which we consider the lifeblood of our thriving economy, is under-sustained and is going through a lot of sophisticated assaults. The very technologies driving our progress, which we have recorded in real-time payments, digital banking, and interconnected platforms, are being weaponized against us. And the fraudsters of yesterday, who used to work in isolation, have evolved into a networked, tech-savvy criminal enterprise operating in the shadows of our digital ecosystem, the system that is helping us thrive and progress. So from social engineering scams and business email compromise to cryptocurrency-enabled laundering and insider-enabled cyber attacks, the threat landscape has expanded, exponentially. Early this year, a major Nigerian bank faced a sophisticated 2.9 billion insider-enabled fraud that exploited software vulnerabilities to divert funds from cloned accounts, spotlighting persistent insider threat risk. We have also experienced high-profile mass fraud cases, including many Ponzi schemes uncovered over the years in Nigeria. So for us, it's so crucial for us to understand that our traditional defenses, while foundational, they are no longer sufficient. So it calls for a perimeter-based, rule-heavy, and it used to be a perimeter-based, rule-heavy, and reactive approach. But now it calls for us building a taller wall, if you allow me, where, we are able to leap to see what the adversaries are doing. So we need to reposition how we prevent, detect, and manage fraud. This is not an option, it is an imperative. And this brings us to our first objective as an institute, which is examining emerging fraud trends and typologies. It is important that we must recognize that fraud is now a hybrid threat. It blends the physical and digital platforms and exploits human psychology and leverages systemic gaps. So whilst we want timely and reliable transactions, it leverages that to also ensure online real-time threats on the go. So we are seeing the industrialization of fraud in this area where organized crime rings operate fraud as a service model, selling tools and access on the dark web. No one thought about dark web previously, but now we have a very alive dark web. We also see the exploitation of rapid financial inclusion. As we welcome millions of new customers, bad actors see a target-rich environment exploiting identity verification challenges and financial literacy gaps. There's also the case of insider threats and collusion, which has been spoken to. But this brings us to the most damaging attacks, often involving not just internal elements, but bypassing controls through compromised credentials or coerced collaboration. And then we see the AI-powered fraud. I mean, in today's era, don't be too sure about a video you see. Don't be too sure about a picture you see, even a voice you hear, because it could all be AI manipulated. So while we'll explore AI for defense, adversaries are using generative AI to create deep fake videos for authorization, craft hyper-personalized phishing campaigns, and mimic legitimate customer behavior to evade detection. Now, understanding these typologies is the bedrock of our strategy. We must move from a siloed view of fraud, cyber, and AML to a unified financial crime risk perspective. This This leads us to our second objective, which is that of highlighting innovative detection and response mechanisms. Innovation is our greatest equalizer. Repositioning means investing in and deploying one, predictive analytics and AI, moving from rules that flag what happened to models that predict what could or will happen. So machine learning can analyze, we have machine learning that can analyze vast networks of transactions in real time, spotting subtle, anomalous, anomalous patterns, or or
Mrs. Nani, we can't hear you anymore. Is it the net? Is it my network? Or we can't hear you anymore. Are you still with us? I think she had a glitch with her network. Let's give her a couple of seconds. Okay. Hoping she gets back soon. In the meantime, I'd like to encourage us to get our colleagues into the meeting, as we'll soon be going into the plenary session, which is the meat of the program. It will be nice for and very educative for people in the industry to get the insights and the knowledge that we shared in the plenary session. So feel free to drop messages for your colleagues, send them the registration link so that they can join up and have an insightful time today. It's taking a while to get Mrs. Nene back. I think she's back. Okay. Perhaps you can put up your video if it helps the network to be a bit better.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm speaking from Abuja. Maybe their network is not as great as that of ours in Lagos. Who knows?
Ah,
uh, so
over to you, ma'am.
I was close to completing. So there's the need for us to now embrace collaborative intelligence. So our greatest weakness has been us working in isolation in different groups. We must now we must champion secure real-time information sharing, information sharing between institutions through industry forum, or fora like this and platforms like the Nigerian Economic Fraud Forum, right? A mall account flagged at Bank A should be a red flag at Bank B within minutes, not months like we have it now. And then it's important for us to also look at automated incident response and threat hunting. When a threat is detected, automated playbooks can isolate accounts, freeze transactions, and trigger investigations instantly, shrinking the fraud life cycle from days to seconds. So proactive threat hunting teams must continually search for adversarial, for fraud, the fraud gangs, the tactics they employ within our own network. Now, finally, so that we go into the meat of the day, in the activity of the day, we recommend sharing practical insights for building institutional resilience. We must embrace technology as a tool, But then what's most important is building resilience as a culture. So a reposition strategy is built on three elements: leadership and governance. The fight must be led from the top. The board and C-suite must own fraud risk, integrate it into its enterprise risk management framework, and ensure adequate investment, to fight this fraud, because it is no longer a manually fought initiative. We must employ the right tools and technology to win this fight. We must move from viewing anti-fraud spend as a cost center to seeing it as a strategic investment in trust and stability. Then we must also consider the human firewall. The most sophisticated AI can be undone by one click on a clever phishing link. We must foster a culture of security awareness, from the call center agent to the CEO to the security man, continuously engaging everyone within the ecosystem, within all stakeholders, continuously training everyone along with a clear, non-punitive reporting channel for suspicious activity is very crucial. And then finally, there is also the need for public-private partnership. We cannot win this war alone. So a fortified financial system requires unprecedented collaboration. We must deepen our partnership with regulators like the CBN, EFCC, NFIU, and telcos. We must not see them as coming after us, but we must see them as working together with the same cause. This includes harmonizing regulations, streamlining asset recovery processes, and jointly conducting simulation exercises to test our collective readiness as an economy. So in conclusion, the Chartered Risk Management Institute of Nigeria calls for us to reposition our anti-fraud strategy and consider it a journey from rigidity to agility, from isolation to collaboration, and from reaction to prediction. It demands that we be as dynamic, innovative, and connected as the threats we face. Let this roundtable be the forge where we shape this new strategy. Let us leave here not just with insights, but with commitments to share more, to invest smarter, and to stand together. The task is daunting, but our resolve is stronger because we believe that by fortifying Nigeria's financial system, we do more than protect assets. We safeguard the trust upon which our economic future is built. We protect the hard-earned money of every Nigerian, and we defend the integrity of our nation. The fight against fraud is an us-together action. At this roundtable, we challenge the Risk Management Institute of Nigeria, along with FITC and other collaborators. We challenge each of us this morning to identify one barrier to collaboration that we will break down in this fight against fraud. Thank you all. We wish us all fruitful and actionable deliberations from the Chartered Risk Management Institute of Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's keep the applauses coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know about you. I've been taking notes. I hope we've all been taking notes. Are you updating them on WhatsApp? Are you updating on your Twitter, on your LinkedIn? Indeed, she spoke about a lot of things. Building resilience is a culture, anti-fraud spend is an investment. We need to build a culture of security awareness in our organizations. And it is very, very exciting to be hearing these nuggets from the association CRMI. Thank you very much for partnering with us on this. So moving really swiftly, I know we're all very busy people, but this is very necessary and important. We'll be going straight into the plenary session, which will be speaking to the team Repositioning Anti-Fraud Strategy, Fortifying Nigeria's Financial System Against Evolving Fraud Dynamics. Allow me to introduce our moderator who will guide this conversation. Our moderator is Mr. Ayodeji Jayola. He's the Chief Information Security Officer of Hydrogen Payment Services Company Limited. Mr. Ayodeji, okay, while we'll await Mr. Ayodeji, I'll just go on to introduce other panel members. We have the lead speaker, who is Professor Emmanuel Abolo, who is also known as the Risk Master. He's the Group MD and CEO of the Risk Management Academy, and he will be setting the tone for this conversation with his presentation. On the panel, once again, you guys will be experiencing Ms. Eneni Oduwole. She will be dropping nuggets for us. She's the CEO of the Alta Ed Limited. Also on the panel, we have Dr. Nelson Anumaka. He's the Managing Director of NMA Consulting. We have also Mr. Goodness Opani. He's the Chief Solutions Architect for Ethno Cyber Limited, as well as Dr. Blaise Ijebo, who is the Director and Chief Risk Officer in the Risk Department of the CBN. I'm so excited to introduce this panel to you, and I'd like to hand over to the moderator at this time. Please take notes, update your social media. The hashtag for this program is the FITC Risk Management Roundtable 2025, FITC Roundtable 25, Risk Matters, and FITC Nigeria. We will be dropping it in the chat. Feel free to update your social media with the nuggets from this session. So where's my moderator? There's my moderator. Are my speakers on? Is the lead speaker on? Do we have the lead speaker? The lead speaker can come up with his presentation. Professor Emmanuel Abolo, do we have you? Okay, sure. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, sir, you have the floor, Professor Abolo. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I want to say that I'm so excited, listening to Eneni Oduwole. It's been quite a long while. I've not seen you for almost 5 years, even more than. And you spoke very well. And we're talking about crafting strategies for combating financial fraud in Nigeria's digital financial system. This morning, I was reading a lot about authorized push payment, and the Central Bank of Nigeria saying that banks should make sure they refund money to those who have been cheated and all of that. It simply shows that it is a very huge problem, and one that has to be, addressed in a very comprehensive manner. We have gone past the old order. We're talking about a digital ecosystem. We're now in a digital world. And so the strategies that worked yesterday will not work now, and they will not even work in the future. So we need to craft different strategies that is very holistic, that is comprehensive, and so on. I also need to say that this is not a Nigerian problem alone. As long as the world has moved on into the digital ecosystem, so also we need to also use digital solutions to solve this problem. And it must be all embracive. Both regulators, banks and all kinds of banks and so on. And of course, regulators and so on. Everybody must come on board. And we need to address this in a very, very comprehensive manner. A micro approach to this problem will not work because the world has become interconnected. Banks are now interconnected. There's no distinction between a commercial bank, it's a payment service provider, and so on. Everything is now in a state of flux, and so on. And so we need to come together. It's a national issue. It's a global issue, national issue. And therefore, our approach must be such that we look at this in a very holistic manner. From listening to Madam Eneli, she was able to characterize the issues. Some of these strategies will border around technological and infrastructure solutions. So technology and infrastructure is one solution to the problem. So How do we deal with that? And she mentioned issues of AI, machine learning, blockchain technology, and so advanced authentication systems, and so on. I agree. All of these solutions. Then, of course, the regulatory angle to the problem. Regulators must also partner, work together, with operators and so on. Then the institutional and organizational measures, that is at individual level, every bank, they have one form of, when I was in Access Bank, I was the first chief anti-fraud officer of the bank. I knew what that meant. But we're saying at institutional level, organizational measures, then customer education and awareness. That is one angle to this problem. So it means it is a collective approach. It's a collective approach to a collective problem, because we are now in a digital world, including customers. Everybody must come on board. If you come with all of these strategies, and the customers who are customers of the banks and financial institutions, they don't have the knowledge. The knowledge space is very narrow. And then, of course, there are some other specialized, what I would say, specialized and specialized approaches in terms of bringing in the regulatory technology, and then, of course, cross-sector collaboration, like she mentioned. Then, of course, the psychological and what I call behavioral approaches, nudges and warnings at critical decision points, and then as well as recovery and redress mechanisms. But I need to say and submit here that because of the complexity, we now live in a VUCA world. We live in a very complex, ambiguous, and very, 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 very ambiguous, complex situations and so on. So we need to put on our thinking caps to try to draw up an implementation roadmap for Nigeria. This is not a specific. It's not specific to one financial institution. It's a global issues, and all of these financial institutions, they are now connected, not only within Nigeria, but they're also connected, with the rest of the world, and that is the global financial system. Therefore, the solution that will work is one that is holistic. It's not, yes, individual banks can be doing one or two things to deal with the issue, but this is a very, very big problem. It's a very big problem because we are now in a digital ecosystem. So once we're able to understand and characterize what all of these issues are, then we need to come up with an implementation roadmap that will involve not only just the players, but government regulators. Then we try to, put this into a timing framework. What do we need to achieve? Achieve within that is immediate, actions. Because when you are crafting a strategy, we all understand the strategy process. Strategy does not just happen overnight. It's a process for strategy crafting. And going through that process, then we can then be able to break, the solutions into different timing, what I call the immediate actions, the medium-term goals, and then the long-term vision for Nigeria. And then, of course, making sure we play within the global space, because there's nothing that is specific to one country any longer. Whatever is happening in other parts of the world is happening here, and so on. So there must be a global approach, and that's the only way we can be able to solve this problem. So I would say that the key success factors in crafting and deploying these strategies will be the strong political will, because some of this involves government and regulators. Strong political will, and then there will be adequate funding, and then interagency cooperation, as Enele has mentioned, and then, of course, continuous adaptation to evolving fraud tactics, evolving or emerging, because as we're trying to solve this problem, there are emerging issues, because if we understand the enterprise risk management framework, you always will want to monitor to see emerging. As we are trying to solve a particular problem in the area of fraud, don't be too sure that things will remain static. No, all these criminals will be coming up with new trends, and so we need to keep ourselves on top of these new trends and be dealing with them, and making sure that the controls we are put in place are also effective. All right. So that will be my submission. I am admitting that this is a very huge problem, but it is not insurmountable, but it has to be a comprehensive, enterprise-wide and global-wide solution to a problem that is global in perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Apollo. Thank you for that very insightful speech. I'd like to call on the other members of the panel to weigh in on the conversation, just the way Professor Apollo has spoken, while we wait for the moderator. Mr. Nini, would you like to say anything in relation to the conversation that Professor Apollo has started?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, I would I think I'll just take off the point of the point he made about building institutions that are aware and conscious to the new trends. So when in other words, the way it was couched, as a subject topic that you shared was looking at ethical and risk-aware institutions, right? So when we speak about um, cultural governance and leadership as a foundation for systemic risk resilience, right? We are actually addressing what I consider to be the singular, the single most important and often most neglected layer of anti-fraud defense. Now, we recognize that technology can be bought, policies can be written, but culture is the environment in which either of these thrives or dies. So your technology needs people, needs that right culture for it to deliver on its mandate. Your policies can only be activated to, realistic value when the culture is strong and it's right. So how do we build this foundation? It is important for us to consider that in this anti-fraud war we're waging, right? And for that, I'll just keep it simple and just, direct us with 2 or 3 thoughts on this matter. First of all, leadership. We always say the tone is set from the top, right? But it's so imperative that leadership must be the unambiguous tone at the top. You see, it has become a mantra, it has become like a buzzword, tone at the top, tone at the top. But Dr. Abolo, Professor Abolo mentioned that when he was in Access, he was the chief fraud, chief fraud officer or fighter, right? Now, I want us to change this perspective. Resilience doesn't start in the IT department or risk department. It starts in the boardroom. It's important for us to help our key decision makers to understand this, that leaders must move beyond mere compliance statements, because most of our board, most of the boards we have, they just wait to ratify, policies and procedures. They don't own them, they don't live them. But we need to engage them in such a way that they realize that they must visibly and consistently prioritize integrity, prioritize effective controls, prioritize investment in anti-fraud initiatives over short-term profit. This means that they'll be required to openly discuss fraud risks in board meetings. It's not just the figure that they will be interested in. They'll be interested in the how and what to do, what not to do, how to prevent it, how to measure it. They'll be interested in the background of it all. So this This not only calls for open fraud risk discussion of fraud risk at board meetings, but also tying executive compensation to ethical fraud conduct metrics, and in fact, cases when we prevent losses, they should be blown out. They should be celebrated, not just when revenue targets are met and huge bonuses are going out, but when fraud cases are, are, are prevented, it should also be celebrated. And that's how you set the tone from the top and create the right culture. When each staff sees themselves as a leader in championing this fight, and then they become co-visionaries and take onto themselves the element for control that slows the process for fraud to crystallize, and therefore sanitizes the environment and makes it safer. And this is when we will then know that truly the tone is being set from the top and it is prioritized. Then secondly, um, I spoke of behavioral changes, and Professor Abolo, I knew him when he was doctor, he's now professor. So Professor Abolo did mention that as well. It is important that we emphasize that. We must engineer psychological safety. A risk-aware culture is a speaking up culture. The greatest threat we face is the knowing doing gap, where an employee suspects something but stays silent because one, they don't want attention drawn on themselves, or they don't want to seem like a snitch, or they don't want to be in trouble, or it might affect their appraisal. No, why should that exist? So fear of reprisal, or the perception that the deal is more important, must be extinguished in our systems. We must dismantle this by creating safe, anonymous, and respected channels for reporting. We also we have whistleblowing channels. Well, how effectively are they used? Who has access to the information, and what is done with the information? How do we track and ensure that the information that comes through those things are adequately dealt? Because guess what? If you do nothing with the information, if people know that nothing is done with the information that comes through that pipeline, of course they will not respect the use of it. So more importantly, we must also publicly reward those who raise concerns. I know that it's an anonymous platform, but where people are bold enough to speak up, even if it's at meetings, to raise an alarm, we should have a way of encouraging it, so that everybody turns up, so that every employee becomes a sensor in our early warning systems. To give time to other moderators, let me just quickly say it's very crucial to integrate ethics into the daily workflow. Culture is not an annual training video, because a lot of us will say, oh, we train, and we just pass information in newsletters or videos. No, it is the fabric of daily decisions and daily actions taken. So we must embed ethical checkpoints into business processes. So before we launch a new product, for instance, a digital product, the question should be, how could this be defrauded? How many of us do risk assessments on our new products? I hear people do risk assessment, annual risk, but how many of us take time to do proper risk assessments on our products to know, okay, where the gaps exist? We should assess whether, not just whether targets are met, but whether there are gaps in our in not just compliance platform, but in the business and in the process flow that can open that product to fraud. This we must do. It's like a credit check, or it's like a fraud check. And this is how we operationalize integrity. Honestly, the most sophisticated fraud AI it can be undone if we have a
Yeah.
culture that speaks, a culture that is confident, that gives confidence to its people to
identify threats and be open about it. Ultimately, having that organizational resilience is a strong weapon against fraud in today's world. So our greatest firewall is not just digital, it's actually human, and it must be built by leadership every single day with everything they say and do. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. As usual, well spoken. So I'd like to mention that Goodness Opani is ably represented by Miracle Chukwudebe. You're welcome, Miracle. And also use this opportunity to yield the moderating to Ayodeji Jayola, who is the CISO of Hydrogen. Ayodeji, you have the floor now. You can take us away with the questions for the session and engaging session. Thank you. Wishing us all an engaging session.
Thank you very much, Joe. How are you doing today? Please confirm that you can hear me clearly.
Loud and clear. Doing very well, thank you.
Fantastic, fantastic. And good morning to all our listeners, viewers from wherever you're connecting from. I'm sure it's going to be another wonderful session. And thank you so much to the last speaker. I think we already gaining insight into some of the things in which we'll definitely be looking at today. Thank you so much, Mrs. Oduwole, for that wonderful submissions. But trust me, there's still a couple of questions I would like to ask and confirm. And I'm sure that the audience would have a very wonderful session today. And today we have a team that will be looking into the overall theme for this particular risk management roundtable. We are looking at repositioning anti-fraud strategy, fortifying Nigeria's financial system against evolving fraud dynamics. Now, this is the twist. Someone picked a phone, called, and said, "Hello, Temitope. My name is Moses, your brother. I just had an accident. Kindly send 150,000 naira to my account. I am with the police, and if that is not done, something else is going to happen." Temitope picked a mobile phone, and opened the bank app. And since he knew, he saw the account that was sent to him and was about transferring, then she paused. Remember, we are looking at how the financial system and how fraud has evolved over time. Then she paused. She asked herself a question. Wait, how do I get information from my brother? Why is it a call this time around? The voice, everything was just the same thing. It was just that pause, because this time around, the number that the brother used in calling was not the conventional number. But you know, at times you are somewhere, your battery has drained, you call and you think you should act. She picked her phone, called the brother, just to confirm. "Did you call me just now?" And as the brother picked the phone, he could hear the background voice, noise of Arsenal and Chelsea and people commenting at the background. "Where are you?" He said, "I'm watching football." And the next question was that, "Did you request for any money?" She said, "No, I'm fine, I'm okay, there was no accident." That speaks to what has evolved within the space where we operate now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not been paying attention, I want you to get a seat, fasten your seatbelt as we go into this conversation today. I want all the panelists to please turn on their video so that we can connect directly with the audience and also be able to share insight into what we'll be discussing. How do we ensure that there is resilience within our organizations? How do we ensure that it's not only going to be about ticking the box every point in time, probably quarterly or once in a year when it has to do with fraud? That is basically what we want to look at this morning. And today I have a couple of people that will be assisting us in addressing some of these concerns. I have Miracle, I have Mrs. Oduwole, Dr. Nelson has also joined us, and Dr. Ijebo, who is the Director of Risk Management for Central Bank of Nigeria. And we'll be looking at addressing some of these concerns, does it have to do with technology? Does it have to do with what human beings need to understand the more? Is it about regulatory requirements, or is it about the cybersecurity infrastructure that needs to be put in place? This is what we want to delve into this morning. And there is no better way to start but by sharing with you this context. And my first question will be going to Miracle. Miracle, you will be assisting us in answering the very first question this morning. And this is the context. There has been a decline in overall fraud volume. There has also been that high-value, precision-driven fraud that has increased over time. A lot of vulnerabilities exist, both within the systems, both within the digital space and non-digital infrastructure that we have all around. The question is this: how can financial institutions leverage enterprise security systems, talking about IT compliance frameworks, using all the analytics tools available to detect and also mitigate all high-value technology-enabled fraud incidents across our digital ecosystems? How can financial institutions use these enterprise security systems to stop all this fraud? Over to you, Miracle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo. Please confirm you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. And when we started this conversation, I've been smiling because this is something that I was having a conversation with my team just a few days ago. I was by referencing a particular use case, all right, that I experienced. I led the team to jump into one of the microfinance banks here in Lagos, reached out and said, hey, we've just noticed XYZ kind of activities. Please come in and see what's going on. So we got in and we realized that over the weekend of that week, multiple accounts were created on the platform. Multiple mobile accounts were created on the platform, and people were moving money from legitimate accounts to several phony accounts. And I started asking questions. It was our job to do the investigation, look at the logs, look at payments, the different applications, the enterprise risks platforms, the management platforms, the application logs, etc., the database logs. We tried to look at all of that. And one of the things that we identified during that investigation was the fact that a developer had gone on the back end of the application and had commented out a part of the application that speaks to BVN verification. Now, I began to ask questions. I raised this concern with the MD of that bank, and I said, this is what's going on. This is what we identified. And then the person is shocked, all right, and began to ask questions. And I asked questions about their governance, and I realized that, unfortunately, the development team reports directly to the CFO, right? And then I spotted a governance issue there. So in as much as we have the right technology, we have the right people, we have the right processes, I feel that governance is something that must be considered in total. When Madam Eneni was speaking, she talked about driving compliance or driving awareness from the top, from the board, and that is critical. Board must understand the essence of security governance in managing fraud. You can't have a team of developers and there is no proper secure development process in place. You can have a team of developers and you don't have technical QAs that validate the work that they do. Someone can just go out because he feels like committing a fraud, comments out a particular verification check, and the application is out there. They open multiple accounts and did what they did. So the essence of organizations must leverage the data that we have in place today. As of now, BVN verification is something that I consider very, very critical when it comes to fraud management. And if all businesses, all organizations, all financial institutions leverage the security that the BVN provides. All right. Adequate methodologies are checked because BVN links your authentication, links your account, links your biometrics with all the activities you do. I think that is one way for businesses to leverage on the enterprise infrastructure that we have. Now, BVN is one of those ways. IT governance, proper IT governance, or rather security governance driven from the top is critical. One other thing I've realized for organizations in my course of in this business, I've realized that many businesses looks at compliance as a third wheel. There is no, you hardly see businesses that correlate compliance with operations. They see compliance as one of those things. Let's just check the boxes and get certification. There are several guidelines. The cybersecurity risk-based, the risk-based cybersecurity framework that CBN has churned out for financial institutions is something that organizations can actually leverage. Right, you have that, and it provides different guidelines, different baselines for businesses to leverage on to protect their infrastructure, to mitigate fraud as much as possible. But you don't see that correlation between operations and compliance. Compliance team is just one set of people doing their thing. Operations, on the other hand, doing what they feel like is necessary, and you don't see that correlation between what they do. I've been on audits and I've seen that you see the IT team, the people in charge of operations and service delivery have their own way of doing things. Compliance team has things like, their policies and procedures on the other end that are not exactly married together with what operations is doing. That has become a concern. And I would, if at the end of this roundtable, businesses sees the need to see compliance not just as ticking the box, right, but actually using compliance as an enabler. We can't talk about cyber risks, we can't talk about fraud detection, we can't talk about fraud mitigation without talking about the compliance frameworks that bodies like the CBN is enforcing. We have PCI DSS there, we have different regulations, we have even the NDP or the NDPA that is there. We have all these regulations in place to validate people, entities that are opening bank accounts, validate what we are doing, the cross-pollination between NABs, right? The infrastructure, the correlation that is supposed to leverage. We have all these things in place, but businesses still see them as burdensome. Oh, they just want to bring another regulation to collect money from us. We have to move up from that point to now embrace compliance as an enabler. Fraud today has gone beyond, send me money, and it is there, but it is more digital. Before, you have to go to the bank, write a check, all right, before transfers are made. But right now, the comfort of your homes, you can make transfers as much as possible. So we must leverage these technologies. Businesses, financial institutions must leverage them. Preach this to their customers. Preach this to members within the staff, within the organization. Do proper background checks. These are things that has to be done. We have seen many of the times when Madam Eneni was speaking earlier, she spoke something about insider threats. That is very critical because in as much as we're looking at fraud from the outside, lots of fraud are actually cooked and perpetrated internally. So what are the checks that people are doing? What are the checks that organizations are putting in place to leverage the technologies that we have? Because yes, we have the technologies, we have processes, we have the frameworks, we have all of them. So what are we doing with them? That would be the question. So I think this roundtable is very critical because financial institutions need to sit down, have these conversations. What are we doing with the resources that we have, the information we have, the partnerships we have, the technologies we have, the processes we have, the people we have? What are we doing with them? I think that is a very good way to continue this conversation. Thank you very much, Mr. Ayo.
Wow. Thank you very much, Miracle, for that insight. That was quite interesting, and I'm sure the audience, yes, I can see the claps coming in. Thank you so much. That was detailed. You were able to speak to different contexts around the question that was asked, and you've also been able to provide adequate information on what financial institutions are expected to do with respect to mitigating and also finding a way to reduce fraud as much as possible. Part of what you said clearly is that driving awareness should be something that should happen from the board. You also stated that organizations must leverage clearly on available data. I also added information and intelligence to it, and also that security governance should be driven right from the top. Thank you so much, Miracle, for that. And I'm sure that the audience would have gotten enough insight, and this roundtable would be serving a whole lot of purpose with respect to ensuring that our financial institutions are more secure. I'll come back to you much later. I want all my other panelists kindly put on your video so that the Zoom master can spotlight you. This is very important. I also want you to put on the video when you are speaking so that the audience can adequately connect to you. Thank you so much, Madam Uduwale. Thank you so much for your earlier insight. Dr. Blaise Ijebo, are you on the call, please? I would like you to put on your video so that I can be spotlighted. The next question would be coming to you, but let me be sure you are on the call. Dr. Ijebo. Zoom Master, can you assist in checking?
Call. Yes,
oh, you're on the
on the
call.
call.
Fantastic.
You can hear
Thank
me.
you very much.
I'm trying to start my camera. I hope it works.
Okay. No problem. So I'll still go ahead with the question. So I want us to move into regulation and also a bit of systemic oversight. I know quite a number of times people are interested in different technology. Now we have everybody is talking about artificial intelligence. Everything, anywhere you get to, is artificial intelligence. Without you including artificial intelligence in conversations, I'm not sure you would be termed as someone that understands the concepts or what you're speaking about. But I want us to look at this. As fraud becomes more technology-driven and systematically interconnected, the need for real-time regulatory visibility and early intervention becomes critical to financial stability. You must see, you must understand, you must know, you must be able to respond. As technology is increasing, AI aspects is also getting increased different points in time. The question is this: how can the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, how can they enhance supervisory frameworks, real-time monitoring, and cross-institutional intelligence sharing to detect, prevent, and also contain high-impact fraud, while at the same time safeguarding the overall system stability? Let me reframe that question. There are a whole lot of banks, there are a whole lot of financial institutions with different technology, with different insights, with different information and data. CBN sits at the middle. How can they now provide that framework that would ensure that what is being monitored in Bank A or in financial institution B has that cross-institutional ability to share information while ensuring that everyone is properly safeguarded? Over to you, sir.
I assume you can hear me.
Yes, please. I can hear you.
All right. Thank you very much. A good question, a complicated question, but a good question. Let me start by saying, we need to take a step back to really understand what the CBN does and what the CBN should be doing with regards to managing fraud. There are two things I learned about fraud in my early days of fraud management. I was not lucky like Professor Abolo to be the chief anti-fraud officer, but in my years, I learned that fraud has there's a fraud triangle and it has three parts. And for you to fight fraud, you must disrupt one or two or even the three parts. The first part is opportunity. Second part is rationale, and third part is penalty. If people feel that they have the opportunity and they can take advantage of those opportunities, then they will. If they feel that they can say, look, it doesn't matter how other people are doing it or whatever, or if they feel that, look, there's not going to be any punishment, So we need to disrupt those three aspects to really fight fraud. To do that effectively, you need what I've termed a four-legged stool. It cannot be one-legged stool. It can't just be technology. It has to be a four-legged stool. And the first leg of that stool is definitely technology. You do not come to a gunfight with a knife. You have to come to a technology fight with technology. And as technology advances, you must also advance your own technology to make sure that you're able to meet the challenges of the new technology. People have talked about different things that is happening around fraud today that is being enabled by technology. I mean, the most interesting one for me is, you can now actually go to the dark web and buy a phishing tool and buy a hacking tool and deploy it. Or they will even teach you how to deploy it and help you to deploy it, and then you share the profit. And that's the kind of environment that we are playing in. The other thing also is that the other stool has to be your internal process. I think somebody talked about it earlier, and your internal culture. It has to be a culture where you have zero tolerance for fraud, so you deal with the insider threats. You have good processes, so you deal with the opportunities that people have. When somebody talked about a situation where you have poor governance, and because of poor governance, the developer is able to put a bug in the system and open the back end and begin to create an account over the weekend. I mean, those kind of things, if you have good processes, should be able to check them from the internal perspective. Then the third leg will be this industry regulatory leg. And that's where we play the most. We must have an industry that is working together, understanding that just like the weakest link in your organization, the weakest point in your organization determines the total strength of your fraud apparatus. Same thing in industry. Any weak link in the industry would affect everybody in the industry. Recently, there was a hacking of one of the biggest firms in the world, and it discovered that they got into that firm, not directly, but through one of their lawyers. So anybody that is a weak link within your ecosystem can bring the whole ecosystem down. So we all need to work together and strengthen our ecosystem, both from the regulatory perspective and from the third and the fourth and the final leg is benchmarking. We may not be facing a problem today, but we must always prepare, because what happens in Gambia, what happened in China, what happened in the US is going to ultimately come and happen here. So we must constantly be benchmarking against what's happening elsewhere and taking steps to say, look, if this happens so can it happen here? And if it can happen here, what do we need to do to make sure, one, it doesn't happen, two, when it happens, we are not damaged so much. And those are, for me, the fundamentals of how we protect ourselves. And that's the approach we are taking from the Central Bank of Nigeria to protect the industry. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Blaze, for that wonderful, how do I put it now? It was properly articulated, and I've actually taken notes. And trust me, this is also something I would take away from this particular conversation and also drive in within the organization where I operate. You stated that there is a fraud triangle which we must take note of. You talk about opportunity, rationale, and penalty. And you also explain why all these three at some point in time must be disrupted so that things that can lead to fraud would not happen. You also shared powerful insight on the four-legged stool that would make the industries and the organizations also to keep standing, despite the fact that there are a whole lot of things happening out there. The first one has to do with technology. You spoke about internal culture of the organizations and where CBN stands, which is the third point, industry, regulatory leg. You also clearly defined and explained the need for benchmarking. What I added to that clearly is that we are staying within a global space. You're not going to protect your hand and think that everything is going to be fine. The weak link within your space might also be affecting other personalities and will bring about a great disruptions within the ecosystem. Thank you so much, Dr. Ejebo, for that wonderful insight. I'm going to get onto my third speaker for today, Dr. Nelson. Please confirm you're also on the call. Dr. Nelson, please
I
confirm on the
am.
call. Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So I remember when Miracle was speaking, he mentioned something, he stated something related to governance. The same insights Dr. Blaze has given also spoke briefly about the need for governance, because when the tone from the top is not clear, or when there is no clarity, no direction from there, a whole lot of things go south. But I want to ask within this context, weak governance structures continue to account for quite a number of fraud that we have, a number of incidents in developing markets, even also within established markets. We have spoken about governance. We have spoken about the need for the board to accept and own this particular space, but there is still a lot of things happening. The question is this: how then can board members and senior governance structures strengthen oversight responsibilities, digital risk governance, and ethical accountability, so that we can proactively curb anything that can affect the space where we operate? Dr. Nelson.
Thank you very much. Ayodeji. I will begin by saying that and regulators essentially have the role of preventing fraud by promoting transparency, accountability, and ethical behavior within their institute. And one of the major areas, both, first of all, the position of the man and the managing director must be separate. Days ago, where we had the man, managing director, because this will prevent dominance, and it will appear as if one person. Again, board must establish strong internal audit department that should be headed by a member of senior management. I will repeat myself, member of senior management, and who is also a professional. In so doing, it will prevent fraud, because it's a situation where you bring in a senior manager, he could be best or free, or even GMP can make him do certain things he ought not. And the new practice now is that chief internal audit, whoever is to the board committee on audit, not to the manager.
Dr. Nelson, can you speak up a bit? I'm struggling to hear you. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can I
it's
be heard?
better now. Just make it a bit, increase the volume so that the audience can also pick what you're saying. Thank you.
All right, the board is also to ensure that the external auditor must not be retained for longer than 10 years in any of the financial institutions. Because when they stay over 10 years, come part and parcel of it. And also they must protect the engagement partner every 5 years, so that that independence of the external auditor will be maintained. We should also look at strengthening the requirements of independent non-executive directors, because these are people who bring a high degree of objectivity to the board, and they ensure unbiased supervision of the senior management staff. we should ensure that we have quite a number of independent non-executive directors. The board should also implement strong internal control systems, such as segregation of duties, proper transaction authorization, independent audit, guiding against conflict of interest, and perhaps related to transactions. All these, if the board is able to guide this, it will prevent fraud. They should also establish a whistleblowing framework to encourage stakeholders to bring attention of the internal or external authority while protecting the whistleblower. I want to talk a little. Regulators should ensure that mandates are put in place, including customer identification, due diligence, and suspicious activity report mechanisms. The regulators also should be able to guidelines providing training.
Hello, Dr. Nelson. You might have to change your network. I'm actually struggling, and I'm getting also feedback from quite a number of people. I'm not speaking what you're saying clearly. Can you change your network? I can come back to you to summarize this position when we get into the second round of questions, but the feedback from your side seems not to be too clear, and we might not be gaining full insight. But trust me, I've picked few items on certain things in which the board members should do. Apologies for cutting you, but the feedback was not too good from your side. I know I heard you clearly when you said that the board must establish a strong internal audit department. I also picked from what you said that there must be independence of the external auditor. There must be segregation of duties. And you also informed clearly before I stopped you of recent that you should establish a whistleblowing framework for the organization. And you added quickly while protecting the whistleblower. I'll come back to you much later, but please kindly assist in changing your network while we proceed with other questions. Thank you very much for your submission, sir. Thank you, sir. So for this particular segment, for this segment, before we go into the AI aspect of the conversation, I would like to tailor this question to Madam Oduwole. And we've spoken about governance, 1, 2, 3 speakers. Then you are talking about the leaders. You're talking about the leadership. You're talking about the organizational direction. As institutions embrace digital innovation and automation, the leaders, they face mounting pressures to align speed, control, and ethical judgments. AI is everywhere now, but AI also has its own challenges. My question is this: from a leadership standpoint, from the perspective of a leader, how then can senior executives drive innovation responsibly while ensuring that every digital risk control, accountability, and ethical judgments are not weakened in the process? So let me also add this to it quickly. Nowadays, everybody wants to go to the market now. I'm not saying tomorrow. What will be your view? How would you address this as a leader? Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a way of just loading up questions. You say you have one question, then let me just quickly add to this. Then you add, you make the question a lot more complicated. Okay, thank you very much for that. But let me inform you that Professor Abolo had his hand up. Maybe he had a question. Should I go ahead, or do you want to take that now? He had his hand up for a while.
Oh, sorry, I didn't notice that. So you can quickly go ahead, sir. Or maybe his concern has been addressed. You can go ahead,
all right.
Madam Uduwali. We'll come back to him. Thank you.
Okay, will do. All right, will do. So basically, first of all, it starts with us leaders understanding this AI, this technology. See, a lot of leaders are only about, oh, what do we need to have in place? What do we need to do? Bring the invoice, bring the approval letter, let us sign. There's no place for taking on the responsibility of understanding the tool and understanding how to incorporate it into your business and operating model, and seeing if it delivers on your corporate objectives without, huge or meaningful shortfalls. So, I said before that, fighting this war is not just about the tools. It's about the people. It's about the culture. It's about how we employ ourselves into the process. So yes, it is good, to have all the data-driven, risk intelligence and predictive systems and controls in place. It is very, very crucial to have that central predictive capability in today's world, because there's just no way you're going to be able to anticipate and um, detect, today's fraud without that infrastructure, if you allow me. But the consciousness that leaders need to have today is to know that fraudsters today are data scientists. They are knowledgeable people. They're not just people looking for 1,000 or 1 million to steal. It is not, it's now like a cartel. It's now like a drug, rather than drug, it's now organized crime. We must understand that they now operate. I mean, how many times have we had people busted in Lagos? I mean, foreigners busted in their operating hubs in Lagos. Is to tell you that it's not localized. People come into this country for the purpose of setting up infrastructure to commit fraud. So leaders must understand that they have to understand, they must understand the intentionality of these fraudsters and put up a force that will, I wanted to say that's equal. No, equal will just neutralize, but a force that will, that it would bust them, right? So leaders must be in a place where they're able to analyze, in a place where they understand the trends, and then they are also able to recommend, how management, those responsible, can understand patterns, because you cannot manage what you don't understand effectively. So it starts with that. How exposed are you? Now, look, okay, so I sit in a few boards and they say, okay, fraud management training for board members. Some board members will come there because, okay, regulator has said we should do this, tick the box, right? But then we need to drive the message of intentionality into that space. Therefore, our defense must be very intentional. It must be as intelligent as those of the fraudsters. It must be as proactive, and it must be rooted in what I would say 3 or 4. No, let me not mimic Dr. Blaze's four-legged strategy. Maybe I'll just couch it in 2 or 3 strategic shifts. One, it is crucial to move from the siloed mentality of maintaining, data sets or information or reports that just report on a type of fraud or frauds that occur within our organizations to an integrated intelligence gathering methodology. And this should be reported to the board. Because, I recall when I was in GT Bank and was proposing for the first business continuity plan to be done. Oh, people were like, oh, in the 20 years we've been here, what has befallen us? Blah, 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 blah. Look, we have a backup server and it's been, it's always there. It's survived. We've survived through it. What's the need of building this whole big infrastructure? This was in 2007. And it was just a simple video showing the board and Exco of a fire incident that happened at Standard Bank, South Africa, their main, head office building. It was just that simple video. After watching that video, the question was, who do you require? Immediately, the MD was asked to sponsor the project. Immediately, just watching that had happened to another organization, they bought it over. So we must move from just reporting frauds that happened within our own system to the board and management. It's good to now show the types of fraud that happen every and anywhere. Because the most telling fraud signal is often that weak signal, that is happening somewhere else, across, the globe or within the country. And it may seem like weak, but if our system does not have the control in place to be able to manage such an incident, then we are exposed, right? So we must bring our leaders, because asking them to do it may be daunting because their interests may not be in that direction. Usually their interest is in the bottom line. We must give them the information that will drive their perspective in that direction. So we must make them see that true predictive power comes from, understanding fraud, cybersecurity, AML, and then, external data, using external data to create what I would say is a unified risk database for the organization, because this helps to tell the whole story and to tell us what to plan for. To manage time, let's go quickly to what I'll consider the next thing to do with AI related risks, because we're speaking to, you said, how do we get our leadership to understand this AI fraud related incidents, right? This is one of the ways, because those AI related risks may not be happening to us directly because we haven't employed AI too much. But the truth is, as long as it's happening within the system, you're exposed because of the integrated network we have. So second, to save time, is we must evolve from rule-based blocking to AI-driven behavioral scoring. So we must be tracking, we must have a way of tracking how tracking behaviors on the system. Our traditional rules used to be very static. They used to fight historical battles, what had happened and all that. And such rules, if you use them today, you'll be unduly exposed, because it cannot identify what is likely to happen. In the AI world, we call it synthetic identity. It cannot identify that. But that's what we need to, we need to build that into our system and make it perfectly normal for our system to be identifying this, so that we can stress test our own control landscape to be sure that we can, prevent crystallization of such risk within our system. Now, this requires some form of understanding of AI and machine learning and all that. And this, we have to periodically, we continuously ensure that our board, our management, our customers every stakeholder understands. We have to look for a simple way to communicate this message. You know, our shift must, the paradigm shift we need here is moving from that place of, does this transaction break a rule, to how trustworthy is this, is the system for managing this type of fraud? Because frauds today are very novel, very scientific, and very sophisticated. And so therefore, having predictive control is useless right now. And these are the things we must make our leaders realize. Predictive controls are useless if we don't have a closed loop adaptive method of, catching these incidents, because we must embed what we know as predictive risk intelligence into how we do what we do. And then the scoring helps us to identify what to prioritize, what to give immediate response to. And that is very crucial. So without taking too much of your time, it's important that our leaders understand that the future of fraud prevention, fraud detection, fraud protection is really bigger than us right now. It is a lot smarter. It is a lot organized. It is very interconnected. And now, like Dr. Blaise Ojebo said, actually, he's a distinguished member of the Chartered Risk Management of Institute of Nigeria. As he rightly said, in the dark web, you can buy. They even reward you when you buy, apply, and you succeed. And so you have self-learning systems for fraud, for conducting fraud. So we, as leaders, in fighting this war, we must weave integrated data, AI-driven behavior analysis, and automated orchestration, of our preventive system into the way we do business. So we must move from being Voltrons over our control infrastructure, move from being defenders, to becoming very predictive guardians of trust, because every fraud that occurs is breaking the trust of your customers, of your regulators, of your stakeholders, of everyone involved in the system, and ultimately of the general public. So it is so important that leaders understand not just how these things are done, but the complicity, the implication, and then how to combat them and integrate that process into how we build our control infrastructure. Thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you very much for that insight. That was properly put. And I must commend your choice of language and how you eventually concluded, starting from your insight with respect to what leaders must do. They must understand the technology. And you also spoke about the fact that we are not fighting this war that is being fought is something about the people, and they must be vigilant and understand what the system is all about. There was a small quote I extracted from your insight, and it says that you can't manage what you don't understand. Madam Eneni Oduwole, you can't manage what you don't understand. And I also think that that is also a good takeaway for leaders, aspiring leaders on the call. And this can also be taken back to our different organizations, to the board members, and also to the executive team, to the leaders, to say, what the message, the report I'm even sharing with you, do you even understand it? Then you will be able to recommend. Thank you very much for your insight. And back to the other panelists, please, we are running out of time. I know there is quite a whole lot of things to share and speak about. Please, we'll peg it to 2 minutes. 2 minutes, let's have 2 minutes of your thoughts so that we can get ample time for our audience to also ask their own questions so that we can also get other insights, other views from other people. Thank you so much to all the panelists for the insight. So let's go into the second aspect of this conversation. Our focus this time around will be on how to balance AI, automation, and predictive tools with human judgments. There is no way we would introduce all these technology components without you and I. It's practically impossible. I'm sure FITC at some point in time would come up with other scenarios, other case studies that would find out if human beings would definitely be replaced. We would need to discuss that much later. I'm talking about the advent of AI and technology. But as much as I understand as of today, that AI needs to be fed with information, and that has to do with human beings. But let us go into all this context this afternoon. AI and predictive tools now power many fraud detection systems, and I'll go back to you, Miracle. But there is that over-reliance on automation. Everywhere you get to, people tell you, I want this automated, I want this automated. In fact, so many people don't want to do anything again. They just want everything automated. They've forgotten that there's a place of process. It is a process that is in place that can be automated. But my question is this, Miracle. What best practices can institutions, financial institutions, organizations adopt to ensure that automation enhances fraud detection while at the same time preserving human judgments? Talking about ethical oversight, I'm talking about operational accountability so that we don't just dump everything within the space where AI operates. What practices do you think we can adopt? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayodiji. Again, I really appreciate this question. And thank you to Madam Eneni. She actually sort of spotlighted some of the concerns you've just raised now. And you see, when we talk about AI, one thing I always say when people bring up the conversation of very soon AI would replace, I just smile because AI at the end, or automation generally, should enhance and not replace. It should enhance, all right? Like you said, Mr. Ayodeji, AI cannot replace or cannot do there is no process for. There has to be a process, then you train your AI model to do what you have to do. And the funny thing is, in Nigeria, we have our own very unique terrain. Just recently, we're testing an AI model we built, a phishing simulation platform who's supposed to call you, and AI is supposed to call you, have a conversation with you. We're still training it. And then I was intentional about trying to confuse the AI. And yes, I was able to, it is AI. You can't, our terrain in Nigeria, your AI has to be a Nigerian AI, bearing maybe a Debayo or I don't know if you get me. So what we cannot replace. We cannot replace human. We can't replace that. Rather, what I would recommend is this: to create the balance. In as much as we leverage AI tools, like Madam said earlier, the people we're fighting, the fraudsters we're fighting now are data analysts. They are automation engineers. They understand these things even more than you, the good guys are. So you have to be a step ahead of them as much as possible. So rather than trying to replace, it is important to, when organizations, again, you see, sometimes the board or organizations now, we're still trying to adjust. We believe in, it has been there. We don't think it will happen. Like Madam talked about, when she was trying to do a business continuity plan for the bank at the time. We believe in it will not happen to us. It's just, no. Organizations now, leadership needs to understand that things have changed. There has been a paradigm shift in everything technology, in everything transactions. So when these AI technologies are even accepted, that is when we purchase maybe fraud detection solutions, for example. We must train it in a way that if we must automate, we can automate things that are, out of the shelf. For example, multiple failed login attempts, right? That is something you can automate because, if I continue, trying to log into an application, within a short period, you can automate that. but there are use cases that we can automate. I was doing an audit on a particular fraud solution, and I asked if, if someone logs in, if that application had co-location intelligence, which is, if I log in here, I'm in VI right now. I log in on this application right now. I initiate a transaction from here, and then in the next 5 minutes, maybe I turn on my VPN, or there's another login on my own account somewhere in Kaduna, for example. Can it detect it as a deviation from a pattern? It said, well, the application can, but we've not done that. Right. So we must sit down, in as much as, like Madam said earlier, you don't manage what you don't understand. You must understand these technologies, bring it down to the table, speak English that we understand, and then do what? Now train your AI model to specific use cases that addresses your own concerns.
Yes.
If I am going to set up policies, I'm going to train my AI application, whatever the solution, the technology is, I must be able to tailor my use cases on that application. If it does not address my specific concerns, then it's not doing the job. And that is why management must intentionally, and that's one of the things I picked from Madam here. She said, intentional. We must intentionally understand the technology we're using. We must intentionally understand our terrain today. We must intentionally understand what and how these guys are thinking. That is only where we can protect. You can't protect what you don't understand. You can't defend what you don't understand. And it must be an intentionality that is from top management down to operations, down to service delivery. It must have that clear-cut balance before we can actually talk about that balance between automation and humans. So at the end of the day, in as much as we are embracing AI, we must train our AI, and we cannot automate everything. We must leave specific use cases, we must leave specific concerns to the judgment of a true Nigerian responder. If that means, so at the end of the day, you see, automation should not, replace, but rather it should enhance human judgment, specifically given the uniqueness of our own terrain in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miracle, for that wonderful insight. Yes, I can see those plenty claps, because I love the line of thoughts, and I also like the fact that there is a way we are connecting with what every other speaker is talking about, and the flow is just taking us to a final destination. And I'm sure by the time we are done with the panel session today, there would have been a whole lot of learnings that people would take away, and also even the panelists, other insights from other people that would be beneficial to the way in which we do things. There's something that struck me, which I picked out from what you have said, and it speaks to the fact that AI must be trained, irrespective of whatever system you are putting or plugging or bringing into the conversation. It must be trained so that I can get the desired results. Thank you once again, Miracle, for that insight. I'm coming back to you, Madam Oduwole, and we are still talking about automation, human oversight, and looking at the culture that we have within the space where we operate now. Now, over 70% of fraud losses, they have been linked to weak risk culture and behavioral blind spots. A whole lot of things that we have within organizations, things you don't know about. At times we call them shadow IT, shadow controls, things that are not seen, or let me say things that you cannot pick with your naked eyes, probably due to configurations, control failures, and all other things like oversight. My question is this: how then can organizations deliberately, I remember while you were speaking the other time, you spoke about the board members and leaders being intentional. So the question is also similar to that, but in a different angle. How can organizations deliberately redesign internal culture? I think you also spoke about internal threats, insiders. How can we design internal culture so that fraud prevention becomes a shared daily responsibility, driven by leadership behavior, incentives, ethical standards, and compliance rules? Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you. I believe I've answered that question in parts previously, and Miracle too has addressed part of that question. Um, um, I'll just add, I think I will just enlarge on what I think should be the control ecosystem, right, for managing this threat. So we have talked about how to build you know, to how to ensure the right appreciation for these types of fraud, the new types of frauds that are that we're experiencing. And now the challenge is, how do we build a resilient internal culture that deploys the required predictive technology we need today? In fact, what we're looking at, as far as I'm concerned, is the entire value chain, the ecosystem, right? And to my mind, it comes from a composition of, one, building that knowledgeable, having that well-informed, knowledgeable, ethical leadership, and then also having shared intelligence and cross-sector governance, because you can't do this alone, right? So I would answer your question by addressing the ecosystem and saying that, having understood the trends, the fraud trends, the systems to deploy, the AI, the predictive technology or intelligence required, in tracking the behavioral tendencies of fraudsters and their schemes and their methodologies, it is important for each institution to sell this message to their leadership, that no institution can be an island in the fight against this financial crime. So that's the advancement. You have taken care of the internal understanding, internal knowledge, internal culture, right? So it is important for us to realize that our weakest link is that gap in the chain of trust across all sectors, right? And so it's important that together, that's the essence of today's roundtable, is that together, as regulators, as practitioners, as policy advocates, as professional bodies, as practitioners, it is important that together we fortify the entire system and move beyond just viewing fraud management as a compliance-based, private or bilateral dialogue between regulators and operators, and embrace it as a collaborative, multi-stakeholder mission. It is important for us to first understand that our leadership must, one, I'd said this before and I'll reiterate it, not only, I'd said it before, that the tone must be set from the top, meaning that they must be, they must walk the talk in terms of integrity and ethics, right? And then they must have the knowledge, right? So that ethical leadership must extend beyond the walls of the organization, right? Because of today's interconnected landscape. And it must mean that we must be our brother's keepers as well. So if this had been tried in our organization, we should have a shared platform. And we should be authentic in sharing it in such a platform to say, oh, this has happened. Maybe you want to check. For instance, the FITC has the Nigerian Electronic Fraud Forum. How often do we let leadership in organizations that are connected to this forum know that it is important to feed this platform with information? Because if you help somebody one organization prevent a fraud in their own system, you're actually going to help yourself in return, because then they find the value in those collaborative efforts, and they also feed the system. So we must look beyond our walls.
And then we must operationalize this shared intelligence and radically we must do so and ensure that whatever platforms, for instance, this FITC platform, we must ensure that it is very secure and it provides real-time triggers and alerts and information. And this is critical. Information that goes out on a real-time, real-time basis, online real-time basis, and also prefers, a confidence of shared immunity to the community. It's important. That's important to have a strong ecosystem. Then finally, because we cannot do anything without our regulators, it's important for the regulators to therefore look at frameworks that will ensure cross-sector governance, because we can do all we know to do internally. We can say, oh, leadership understands and all that, but once it is not enabled by law, we are constrained. So the point here is that we need to encourage we need to make a call to our regulators to review and co-create adaptive regulations that will allow for this collaborative effort and ensure that collaborative governance becomes the bedrock by which we build the systemic defenses that we need, such as biometric linked. I know we do have that now, identity ecosystem, but we need that to evolve into the synthetic identity mechanism we need for AI-driven or AI-enabled fraud. So basically, what we can do after taking care of the internal environment is make sure that we build collective resilience with all stakeholders, regulators, practitioners, lobbyists, policy formulators, professional bodies. Everyone should be in this fight together. So we're looking at a generation that, we're now in that phase where collaboration is the key to winning this battle. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. I wish we had all the time. Really, I would have extracted more questions from what you have shared, but we really don't have so much of time and we need to move on. But you've also been able to provide quite a number of insights into what we need to do as individuals, as organizations. What are the few things I extracted from what you said? No institution can stand alone. There is so much of interconnections all around that you can't say that you're not going to talk to the third party or the fourth party or the fifth party, so you can't be a stand alone. You also stated clearly that regulators and operators must collaborate. They are meant to achieve the same goal, and the focus should be the same. That was also clearly stated during your when you shared your position. And the final thing I picked was the fact that we need to build collective resilience. Thank you once again, Madam Uduwole, for that. I'm not sure if Dr. Nelson is back on the call. Dr. Nelson, please say hello if you're back on the call. I knew I saw you exit at some point in time. If you are not on the call, then I'll quickly move on to Dr. Blaze so that we can have this final round speaking on automation and human oversight. Dr. Blaze, I'm going to quickly come back to you. And globally, speaking about the different things that are happening within where we operate at this moment, regulators are deploying AI-driven surveillance and collaborative risk utilities to strengthen fraud prevention in complex digital markets. What regulatory innovations, supervisory expectations, or industry-wide standards, speaking from a Central Bank of Nigeria perspective now, should Nigeria prioritize to close the regulatory technology gaps that we have, at the same time, while still supporting responsible digital innovation? The question is, what should regulatory innovation, supervisory expectations look like in Nigeria so that we can close all the regulatory technology gaps that we have inherent? Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. You always ask very interesting, complicated questions, but it is well. I think it's simple. Keeping it very simple. There are three things that people should expect from the central bank and the regulatory space in Nigeria. One is we will continue to innovate. Innovate in the sense that we will continue to make sure that we understand not only what we have to do, we need to understand what the operators are doing, and also what is happening elsewhere in the world that is likely to come to our shores. So we're going to constantly innovate, constantly reinvent ourselves. And one of the things that this management in the central bank has done since it came in 2023 is to begin to build capacity for innovation. We now actually have a department that is focused on innovation, strategy and innovation department, and they focus on innovation. So we also set up two departments to focus on the payment system where a lot of the innovative hubs rest. So all the fintechs and all of that, we've built two departments, one to do policy and one to do supervision. So we're going to constantly innovate to make sure that one, we're encouraging innovation within the industry, but we are understanding innovation enough to be able to regulate it properly. Somebody said you cannot regulate what you don't understand. And therefore, we want to be able to understand what is going on in the sector and be able to regulate it properly. The second thing you're going to see is that we will constantly be learning. But our learning is not going to be the rule of thumb learning that we used to have. It's going to be data-driven learning. So we are going to be able to pull data from what we are seeing, what is happening in the industry, what's happening elsewhere. And one of the key ways we are going to also draw data is what we call the sandboxes. I'm sure many of you have heard us talk about the sandbox for a lot. So when you want to bring an innovation, we might say, okay, come and operate it in a sandbox. We give you a certain number of customers, we limit it, and we'll learn from that process, both as to whether you need regulation and how much regulation you need, so that we don't throw you out in the open without enough regulation and you cause havoc to yourself, or we give you too much regulation and we stifle the innovation. So sandbox is a very good place where we collect data and we use that data to inform our decision as we go forward. So what you're going to see in the next several years, it's data-driven learning and data-driven decision-making. The third pillar, which I think is of very important, is that we're not going to be different from other jurisdictions. Yes, we are unique. Yes, Nigeria is special. But at the end of the day, if we keep to the fundamentals, we'll be able to understand where there are issues and fix those issues. As you see, we have done with monetary policy, we return back to the fundamentals of monetary policy. And we're going to continue in that line. For instance, we are pushing to go into what we call inflation targeting. And that's the policy, that's a strategic trust for our monetary policy management. And we're going to do that with almost every other thing. We're going to benchmark against other jurisdictions. We're going to work with other jurisdictions to understand and to learn from their experiences. But we will try as much as possible to maintain orthodoxy in our approach to any and every issue. This way, we hope that we will create a level playing field for everybody and reduce arbitrage that we had in the past, where people go operate in one sector, take the money from that sector and jump to another sector, and they're making money from doing nothing. They're just rent seeking. We're going to try to get rid of that by making sure that create a level playing field for everybody. And we constantly are benchmarking and learning and using orthodox tools to deliver the best for our country. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Blaise Ijebo. I think I need to come for a special class. I need to come to get further insight into some of these things. And they are actually sinking. And I'm seeing quite a number of comments already on the screen from where I sit. And you've been able to also clearly map out what we should expect from the regulators. I like the fact that you said that you will keep to innovate. Without innovation, you would have killed a lot of things. And you quickly added to state that you need to understand what the operators are doing. So you are not just innovating blindly, you are understanding and interested in knowing what is happening there. Now, what struck me the most in this, your second part of the panel review, has to do with when you spoke about data-driven learning. It's quite different. It's different from the normal learning in which we always speak about. And you added that that would also guide you into making informed decisions. Spot on. The final thing was keeping the fundamentals, the basics, and the foundation, creating a level playing ground for everybody, for people to try. Once again, thank you so much, Dr. Blaze, for your submissions. I'll quickly go back to Dr. Nelson now. Dr. Nelson, please confirm I can see you, but confirm you can hear me. Dr. Nelson, bit of struggling today with your network. Dr. Nelson, you can hear me?
I can hear you clearly. I have to change my position.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. So
clearly.
let me ask you. Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you also. It's better now. So I'm going to ask you a question, and it's based on the automation and human oversight you've been speaking about for quite some time, but it's going to be related now to compliance and compliance culture and integrity within our systems. And the context is this: institutions with strong compliance cultures experience significantly fewer fraud-related losses. That is the position in which, from research and from what it's clearly understood within the industry where we operate, when you have a compliance culture that is strong, you have lesser of the frauds within your environment. But the question, and that brings the twist into the conversation, is this: how then can financial institutions embed integrity-driven compliance cultures? That question is because we don't want compliance to just be to tick the box and move on. That can also now enforce accountability at all levels while still enabling performance, speed, and innovation. Remember, Dr. Blaze told us that the regulators are also interested in innovation. It will not be us churning out policies that will now stiffen innovation from happening. How can you, as an individual, as an organization, help and assist in ensuring that this gets to the appropriate level which is intended to? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I want to say that compliance and ethical leadership are intrinsically linked, because if you look at ethics, forms the foundation for compliance, and that is the core of integrity in an organization where leaders, employees consistently do what is right and follow the rules and the values. One area I think is like Eneni had said before, there should be a strong code and senior management that emphasizes is zero non-tolerance. Hello?
Yeah, the network is breaking.
Oh my God, I don't know. I don't know what else to do. I have changed my position.
Maybe you should disable the video and only speak.
Okay, put off the video. Let's see.
Sorry? Okay.
Put off your video. Let's see whether you'll be able to speak for a minute or thereabouts without breaking. So go ahead now.
Okay. I talk about establishing a clear and precise and procedures that will reduce ambiguity and guide in such a way that it will create unified understanding of organizational expectations. Also, employee consistent through multiple channels, either and or workshops. We can also that
Okay, I think at this point I need to step in. It's not clear, Dr. Nelson.
It's still not
Sincere
clear.
apologies. I know internet can be funny at times.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
it's breaking. It's breaking. It's hard
Oh
to
my.
bring
Oh my
out
God.
the point from what you are saying. So what you can do for me is you can just share some of your thoughts on the charts. Let's get some of your thoughts on the charts. You can compress some of the things in which you wanted to speak about onto the charts. Yeah, it's breaking. Yes, I can see that message also on the chat. Just compress some of your thoughts and drop them on the chat. I'm sure people will be able to pick it up and make meaning out of that. But the comment from your side, the internet is poor and breaking and making it difficult to really flow with your line of thoughts. But all the same, thank you so much for offering to provide insight into today's session. And I'm sure that at some other point in time, we would have opportunities of listening directly from you. Before I get into the final words from my panelists today, I want to find out from the audience if there are questions. Ujiro, can you help me check? I don't know if some other people have dropped questions earlier on so that we can quickly have the audience also speak to us and not just look like a session prepared without us carrying along the audience. I know there's been a lot of insights today, but at the same time, if there are questions from the audience, it would be nice to get some of those questions and allow those questions passed across to our wonderful panel. Ujiro, are you there? Do you have questions from the audience? Can you help moderate that?
Yes, I'm with you. Not okay. We already posted earlier on that if you had questions, please. But if you also want to ask a question, you can raise up your hand. We're gonna have allow just a couple of people to speak. Did you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, so we don't have any question. So fine. If you don't have any question, at least we've given the audience the opportunity to ask the question. I've also stated that. I think we'll just proceed because I'm already looking at the time so that we don't exceed the 1 p.m. planned for this particular session. So let me ask, yes, thank you so much. Yes, I can see those messages. So let me just quickly ask my team before they run away. I'm going to ask this final question and please just answer me in 1 minute. I'm not going to put up my mic so that I can stop you at will as when I want it. So I want to quickly ask this question so that our audience can have full benefits from the session of today. And I'll start again with Miracle. How can banks, now we are going into the specifics now, how can banks, fintechs, and regulators implement secure standard-based information sharing and real-time monitoring systems that would strengthen collective defenses? We are looking at collaboration now. So what do you think banks, fintechs, and regulators can do together in just few sentences? Less than 1 minute. Miracle, just quickly.
Thank you very much, Mr. IODG, and to other speakers. Now, I think this is a very important part because in this part of the country, we tend to hoard information. We feel embarrassed when we have been victims of some kind of fraud, and then we really fear for our reputation. But it is important to have this community where these banks, the OFIs, can come together and share this information. And one of the things I think they can do is, have a database of, would I say, blacklisted or compromised BVNs, right? I still want to speak to BVNs. If you in cybersecurity, if you purchase a WAF, a web application firewall, one of the service that they always available for you is something they call IP reputation services. And that IP reputation services it's a database of all blacklisted IP addresses globally. So once you subscribe to that service, if such IP addresses are trying to reach your application, it automatically blocks it out. That's because that service, that database is there. So if we also have a continuously updated database of compromised or blacklisted BVNs, it would actually do a lot of good. All right. And then I think it's also important to foster that conversation around that collaboration. So when there are BECs, business email compromises, when there are SIM swaps issues, and multiple account openings and all of that, once these indicators are identified, it should be shared. There are portals, there are platforms. I know that NIBS always shares information. Oh, this bank is down, this is down, that is down. It should also go alongside when there are frauds identified, irrespective of the size, irrespective of the magnitude. They should also do well to share. And for the banks and OFIs, microfinance banks, fintechs, they should do well to share this information, because an information shared, once shared, can be the source of defense for another organization in your industry. And this is how it should continue. It should continue. There should be collaboration. There should be openness.
Thank you.
All right, to to build that wall of defense. Collaboration cannot be overemphasized. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Miracle. You used more than 1 minute, but I wanted you to be done with your line of thoughts.
I'm sorry.
Create a community. Yeah, create a community. Add a central repository. I think that was quite important from the statement and your response, and I'm sure this is well understood. I'll quickly go to Madam Oduwole now. I'm going to ask her a final question, and we've spoken about human beings. Miracle told us clearly that irrespective of what AI is going to do, you need humans at every point in time. My question is, and the final question, what scalable human capital, leadership-driven capacity models can financial institutions adopt just to ensure that we strengthen vigilance, ownership, and ethical responsibility across their workforce? Just in a minute or less. And I'm not going to put up my mic.
I promise you it's going to be less than a minute.
Great.
Because I will leverage everything that our great contributor Miracle has already said, because quite a bit of it is in there, right? And all I would say is, for us to understand we're dealing with organized crime here, first of all. And so all stakeholders must understand that that's what we're dealing with. And so the education process should be very granular. We must carry all stakeholders along for them to know what is going on, what's possible, and how interconnected it is. Like I said, you can't manage what you don't understand. So if there's a weak link in the understanding value chain, that is your biggest problem, right? So whatever learning, organizational learning has to be done, whatever when you say model, really, I would say use every platform for sharing knowledge, every platform possible, formal training, intranet sharings, every platform necessary to share this information in a very simplistic, granular manner. Point is, people have to understand it is now science-based. It is now done by very knowledgeable experts, and then it is very interconnected, so you're not in silos. It's just everything we have shared, making sure that everyone in the value system has this understanding and the appreciation of the fact that each one of us were very critical to stopping this malaise. Thank you very much. I'm sure I didn't take up to a minute.
Thank you very much, Madam Oduwole. I'm actually looking forward to another session where we'll have enough time to actually break some of these components down and give our audience good responses, important and very valid information that would assist them in ensuring that organizations stay alive and stay protected. Thank you for your insight. I picked from your statement, education must be granular. I'm not going to stress that. I'll just leave it at that. Education must be granular. Thank you for that wonderful insight. And back to Dr. Blaze. Dr. Blaze, I have come with multiple questions again this time around for you in a different dimension. I have a preset question, and I also have a question from the audience. So let me pick it from the audience, and I'm going to marry it with a question that I want you to answer in just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. I've added 1 minute to yours so that you can put everything together. Before I get the final thought from all the panel members, then we'll put a close to today's session. And the question is this: how can the role of National Assembly be strengthened by the real oversight of the central bank, the main regulator towards fortifying the nation's financial landscape? I'm going to ask that question again.
Because I didn't hear properly.
National Assembly, how can the role of National Assembly be strengthened by real oversight of the central bank, being the main regulator towards fortifying the nation's financial landscape? What this person is basically asking is, CBN, yes, you've been doing a lot of things for financial institutions. Is there also anything that can be done within the National Assembly space? Now, let me marry it with this question because they are almost together. What are those governance reforms, board expectations, compliance risk alignment measures which institutions need to adopt to strengthen fraud deterrence, promote transparency, also promoting transparency in National Assembly that will reinforce trust in Nigeria's financial system? Dr. Blaze, I'm sure you are smiling already that I've come with my complicated questions.
That is a question I will need 20 hours to answer. So if you give me 2 minutes, all I will say is thank you very much for the question. I will see you next year. In all seriousness, let me make 2 comments. And then the first one is with regards to the National Assembly. I think they are doing a great job of, calling people to come and explain to them when there are things that is in the public domain that is not clear, or don't understand, or people are not happy about. I think that helps all of us to sit up. Another thing they are doing very well, which we would really like them to do a lot more, is when there are acts or bills or people bring forward legislation, proposed legislation that impact on where we supervise or where we work or what we have interest in or we're a key stakeholder, and they ask us for our point of view. And we're very happy that they give us that opportunity, and we pray they continue to give us that opportunity. Finally, I think one of the other things that I think they've been doing, and I think maybe they need to do even better, it's around the area of supporting us with the legislation that we need to push reforms to get things done and done properly. One of the things that you find is that you try to put a regulation in place and somebody immediately jumps to court to try to stifle it or to challenge it. I think where there is need for the National Assembly to help us with regulations to strengthen our powers to regulate the industry properly, I think it would be great if they continue to help us as they've done in the past. Thank you very much. The other thing that I think you asked about is what do we expect from board and so many other people that we expect to strengthen fraud? Let me just give you one simple answer. There's something called RACI, responsibility, accountability, control, and I think I can't remember the other one. But essentially, what I'm saying is that for there to be good fraud management, responsibility has to be matched with accountability, has to be matched with good controls, and has to be matched with a clear tone at the top that we will not tolerate fraud. We will not participate in fraud. We will show integrity. I think the last one is integrity. So if the board shows integrity in what they are dealing, in their dealings, in their decisions, they show integrity in the way they handle issues, it will peckle down. And they put controls and control metrics that match responsibilities with accountability, you will find that fraud will begin to go down. Because very often, fraud does not start from outside. It starts from inside, either deliberately by collusion or inadvertently by mistakes or inadvertently by the creation of gaps that creates opportunity for fraud. So if we make sure we have good responsibility, good accountability, good controls, and integrity, we will find that our systems will be closed and difficult for fraudsters to penetrate. Thank you very much. Unfortunately,
Thank
I will
you
also
so
use that
much.
as my last, sorry, if you permit me, I will also make that my last comment because I need to join another, I'm speaking another conference, and if you can hear in the background, so I'm going to be going over there to make my presentation.
Apologies
So
to
if you
interrupt.
allow me
Can
to
we just all
power.
come on video so we can have a picture before you go, sir? My apologies.
Thank you.
Miss Seneni already dropped up as well because she has another engagement. So let's just take a picture before we
Engagements.
round up. Yeah. Media, I want to believe you are doing this on our behalf. Brand and experience, tech. Let us know when it's done. Okay. Thank you very much. Back to you, moderator.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Bliss. One thing I like about your responses, the fact that they are punchy, you can easily extract them, you can pick them, you can use them, you can refine and make use of it to align with whatever you want to do with them. Thank you so much. I like the response on the National Assembly, meaning that they listen to you, you go there to educate, to advise, to guide on some of those things that probably would not be too clear to them. I think that is important you have shared with the audience today. You also spoke about supporting with legislation. Without those laws in place, implementing or enforcing becomes a difficult thing. And the other aspect of RESI, responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed, I think that would bring us to an end with respect to our session for today. Thank you so much for your insights, and thanks to all the panel members. Thank you for making sure that today was interesting. And I'm glad to say clearly from my position that a lot of things have been said, and I'm sure that our organizations, the institution, the ecosystem, the environment where we operate locally and globally will be safer because of the conversations we had today. And I want to say a big thank you to FITC for bringing this program to bear. And I'm sure at some other point in time, we'll all gather to have another wonderful session. Thank you very much. And back to you, Ujuru. Cheers.
Thank you very much, sir. It has been a very insightful, knowledgeable, and very interesting session. There's so much to say and so little time to say it. So I would like to thank all the panelists once again. Thank you very much. Please don't go. We have a very interesting segment coming up where we get to unveil the latest fraud and forgeries report. However, before we move on to that segment, we're going to be giving 2 minutes to the Registrar of CRMI, Mr. Olanye, to give a quick goodwill message. You have the floor, sir. Are you there? Okay, Tech, can you help me here?
Okay, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Good afternoon. I can hear you now. You have the floor.
Oh, great. Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, distinguished audience. Yes, indeed. I must recognize the presence of my council members here, first of all. Mrs. Neni, Mrs. Emal, Dan Ochanya, Dr. Blaze, and also ex-president Professor Abolo, and all other protocols observed. First, I want to salute FITC for this good job. Indeed, it's a great one, and it shows that FITC is a world-class, technology-driven, and knowledge-based institution, like they claim. So we salute you for this good job. Also, we salute you for the capacity building job that's been done over the years. Indeed, it is helping the industry to shape better, to close knowledge gaps. So on that note, we sincerely, at the Chartered Risk Management Institute of Nigeria, applaud this collaboration with FITC. It is a collaboration that we value so much because it is the way to go. Today, I've been listening to the speakers and panelists, and one of the commonest words today is about collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. So collaboration is the way to go. And again, we are delighted the more that you're extending your capacity building initiatives to the area of risk management. That's what we want, because we want more people to know about risk management. So we are very happy to collaborate with FITC now and always. For us at CRMI, we are the only chartered risk management institute in Nigeria, and we are doing our best to get more people to understand risk management. Today, we have set a national standard for certifying risk managers, which is the Chartered Risk Manager Professional Certification Examinations. And we are calling on people to please come on board and join us. We're proud to announce the Central Bank of Nigeria, NDIC, SEC, all of them, they've keyed into these certification examinations and is getting traction. So we invite all Nigerians to please join us in this good job that we're doing. Of course, in terms of membership structures, we are similar to FITC. About 90% of the banks are members. Also, the public sector, we are doing so much now to extend the frontiers of risk management to the public sector, because reasonably the private sector, they've got it right. So we are doing our best, and we invite you to join us in this work. Beyond the national standard that we're setting, we're even branching out globally. Today, we're a founding member of the Federation of African Risk Management Associations, and our own dear president of CRMI, Calvin Ugoke, FCRM, is the president of FAMA, which is Federation of African Risk Management Association. Then also, looking globally, we have also joined the International Federation of Risk and Insurance Management Associations. There are 2 African countries that are there, South Africa and Nigeria, and we are proudly representing Nigeria. Then this one will interest you.
Yes.
Today, we are getting risk governance certification with DCR Institute USA. Ordinarily, this certification will cost you $2,500. But by virtue of our collaborations with $850, you can do this internationally accepted certification, and you have it. So I will not waste much of your time, because I know it will be risky to do so. Yeah, so thank you very much for having us, and we're glad to collaborate with you. We'll do more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CRMI. Thank you for the details. Thank you for the goodwill message. So we need to move on. We need to move fast. We know you're busy people. So it's time for us to unveil the third report, third Fraud and Forgeries report for 2025. I'll give are you to Tech to play the launch video. Tech, are you there? Can we have it? That way you can access the report before you get off this call as the first Okay, please bring back the QR code so that it's scanned and just look up the QR code. Okay, please scan the QR code and get access to the video. While we do that, let's get ready to take a quick poll where we get to give feedback to FITC on this program. So immediately after you scan the report, let us know that you've scanned it. Feel free to chat in the text in the chat box texting us that you've gotten access to the report. Are you again to tech? Please launch the poll. We need to round up real quick. Please, let's engage the poll. Can you see the poll on your screen? Nobody has participated yet. Okay, 2%, 5%. Let's have you. Please respond to the code. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let the responses come in. If you are unable to scan the QR code for the report will be sent to the mailbox of everyone who attended this program firsthand, even before it is disseminated to the general public. Okay, the poll is still on. Let's make sure we're responding to it. Wow, participation is still very low. How do we improve this program for you if we don't get your feedback? Please, let's quickly, it's just a 6-question poll. It's not going to take time. Let's respond to it so that we can go. We can move on to the next item on the agenda. Wow, we're not at 50% yet. Please, it's not going to take you more than 2 minutes to be done with the poll. Your feedback is very important to the success of these subsequent events and how we can improve it to even make it better for you. So please, can we fill the poll? Yes, we'll be sending out the link to the recordings for the program. Okay, thank you to everyone who has participated in the poll so far. If you're still in the poll, it's time to round up. I'd like to yield to Mr. Alaba Ekundayo to give us the closing remarks. Okay. So once the poll is done, we can still display the QR code once the closing remarks have been concluded. Yes. So AE, over to you.
All right, thank you, Ojiro, our moderator. Good afternoon. Are there eminent speakers, partners, and participants? Let me first thank everyone, for finding the time to join this Risk Management Roundtable organized by FITC in partnership with some of the organizations listed and present in this roundtable. It's not easy to pull out people on the morning of a working day to be here for hours for this roundtable. So on behalf of the management of FITC, we deeply and sincerely appreciate your support and your interest through your participation in this roundtable. I'd like to thank the keynote speakers, the regulators, NDIC, the MD of NDIC, ably represented by our Director of Risk Management, and also Dr. Blaise Ijebo, Central Bank of Nigeria, Risk Management Head as well. We sincerely appreciate the time and the knowledge that you have shared through your keynote addresses. In particular, also the chairman of the EFCC, who was ably represented by the director in the Lagos zone. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for the interest. Thank you for the great work EFCC is doing in terms of risk and fraud management and prevention. And the thoughts you have shared here today have been quite valuable. And also to our lead speaker, Professor Abolo, and all members of the panel. You've done justice to the topic of this roundtable. I mean, through all the experiences, the knowledge that you have shared today. We so much value and appreciate your contributions. And also to our distinguished partners, the two associations are present at this meeting, the Chartered Risk Management Institute, and then, of course, the other institute also that is here. Thank you so much for your contributions, for partnership, for collaboration as well. And one thing we only like to say that FITC, we've been leading and shaping conversations through our thought leadership programs that runs across the year. So this risk management roundtable is just one of them. We also have other thought leadership events and conferences that we also run almost every quarter. And we are so glad that you have made today's roundtable quite successful. So once again, on behalf of the management of FITC, on behalf of the MD CEO, Dr. Chizo Malize, and other FITC members and stakeholders, we say a big thank you to you. And in particular as well, all the participants from across the banking industry, financial services sector. I also see some people that joined even from overseas. I saw someone that joined. I saw your message from Banjul in the Gambia and a few other countries that's also joined. We sincerely thank you. And your contributions through your comments, questions, and so on has significantly contributed to the success of this roundtable. Like my colleagues have said, we'll be reaching out to you through email for some other communications and also for the report, Q3 fraud and forgery report, which FITC has developed. We'll be sending them to you so that you can have copies to read. And to members of the fifth column, I mean, you are partnering with us in terms of media publicity. Thank you so much as well. We wish all of you. We are already in the month of December, so it's not bad to say Happy New Year, Merry Christmas in advance. Or rather say compliments of the season. And next year, we'll all be here to also have this roundtable together. Thank you so much. Wish you all the best of the rest of today and the year. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
you.